It's time zone wars here on the HockeyBuzzcast. Howdy, folks. Happy hump day. Happy Wednesday. We are down to, and then there were two in the NHL. We'll talk about a little bit about Game 6 and something about the San Jose Sharks and where they're going to go from here. But Russ, start us off.
All right. So sometimes players have fights in the NFL with former teammates, and there's a good one going on right now between Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown. Now, the interesting thing is, because Antonio Brown is like this bombastic guy who's a great player, but because he's, been a holdout and he's done other things, people sort of look at him and say, he's a bad dude. And because Roethlisberger is the quarterback of the Steelers and he's won Super Bowls, everybody's like, oh, yeah, he's a good dude. And as it turns out, Ben Roethlisberger the other day was finally talking publicly, of course, to ESPN. So really, this is a very heartfelt apology about things he said about Antonio Brown when the season was over. And it's like, I couldn't even get close to believing him. It was like so made up and contrived of PR garbage that you had to wonder, why did he even bother? Now, of course, he goes, well, I tried to contact Antonio by phone and by, text. And it's like, listen, you could drive over the guy's house. You're a teammate. You know where he is. He didn't want to do any of that. No. But all of a sudden, somebody went up to him and said, hey, Ben, this looks bad on you, and you're the leader of the Steelers. And by the way, your career is going in the toilet. Maybe you should do something about this. And I have to tell you, Antonio Brown, all he did was tweet back and wrote two-faced. And he's right.
Well, I mean, honestly, the thing is, this is a fight between two eminently unlikable people.
Yes.
Two reprehensible players. One because of his attitude on the field, and another for his deeds off the field. It's sort of like being at the ringside in a war between Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia. You want to see them both lose.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So, you have anything to add on that?
No, I'm just listening. No, you guys take it away. I'm like a spectator in our group chat. I'm just standing back listening.
I have one more thing too. Go ahead. So today is the birthday of one Tommy John, and even if you never saw Tommy John pitch, you know about Tommy John because he's the first guy to have the ulnar ligament transplant, and it went and it was successful, and he pitched until he's like 45.
Right.
But here's the funny thing about Tommy John. He has 288 lifetime wins, and he is not a Hall of Famer, which is kind of crazy because he never got higher than 31%. You would think, just based on the fact that he is known for this procedure, which is basically safe pitching in that sport, because so many guys fell victim to this over the years, and they come back now within a year. But he also has 288 wins, which in this modern era, nobody's going to touch that. I can't understand how he's not a Hall of Famer.
I think eventually that Veterans Committee is going to get him and maybe Jim Cott in there because he has like 270-something or 280-something wins. But, the funny thing is, it's like Jim Corsi in hockey. He's more famous for the surgery with a lot of people and Corsi's more famous for being associated with analytics than him being a goaltender with the Edmonton Oilers or Tommy John being a pitcher with the Dodgers and the Yankees and a few other teams. So it's just weird that way that they're more famous because of something outside the sport or something extraordinary rather than.
What's kind of interesting about that, and I'm sorry for the delay. My stupid MacBook, man. Sorry.
I want to go off on it, but I can't. Is that okay?
Your mic's.
You're all over the map, Pack.
Wait, I got
it. It's silent. Your mic is silent.
Now.
No, now
you're. That's great. That's great. Perfect.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hold on.
Now you've been visually decapitated by.
That's great. Okay. Best shot.
Is this okay?
No, you sound like you've been talking through a pillow.
Oh my god!
How's this? This okay?
Not good.
No, it's getting worse.
It's getting worse.
It's getting worse.
It's almost like Charlie Brown's teacher. We can make you out, but it's very slight.
How about this? Is this okay?
No.
It's a little better, but it's got to get louder.
Yeah.
Refrigerator. All right, hold on.
Log off and log back in. Try that.
You got it. I might not be back to you later.
Yeah, he's going through a mixing board. There's something there with his mic.
Yeah, I know. And Ack, when we listened to yesterday's broadcast, everybody was talking at like this level, and you were talking like this. It was like that. It was that there was that much difference. It was like you were like almost like. Oop.
You
didn't like that. Well, no,
the black over his head though, that was fantastic. Where his head should be, that was great.
Okay, I'll do the intro. We'll start the show. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019.
I'm Peter Tessier in anything but balmy Winnipeg.
What does that mean? Why? Why is it not balmy?
Because it's awful out. It looks like a hurricane is outside. It's completely covered. I'm watching my tree right now. Holy crap. It's like almost horizontal.
Oh, wow.
A big willow tree. And it's cold.
Wow.
Okay, let's listen. Ack, talk.
Hello, how are you doing today? Is this okay?
It's getting a little better. It's sort of.
It is a little better.
There you go. That's better.
Keep
Why
it going.
didn't do anything?
Well, it was increasing.
The volume increased. I'm Russ Cohn from Sportsology, and here's Eck.
Oh, and I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com.
I never introduced myself.
Oh, I don't know. I just said Russ. I thought we were in the middle of our introduction.
Russ,
Right?
go ahead.
I thought
That's Michael Jello, and that's Peter Tessier, and I'm Eklund. And I'm coming to you from my Chromebook, so if it doesn't work, it's a but the other one, oh my gosh, I just have to spill for a second about this. That's Peter Tessier in the middle. So I have a really nice it was a gift. A person gave me their old Mac whatever stand-up computer they call it now, and it's really nice. It's fine. It's been working great for everything. And then today I decided to update, and it told me it was going to take about 2 minutes. I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm doing it. I'm like, what?
Famous last words.
Yeah, it says update will be ready in 45 minutes. I'm like, okay, so that's why I was raced upstairs, got my $110 Chromebook, and whatever. Here we are. So all right, so that's Peter Tessier. We have a Stanley Cup final.
We do.
Yeah,
we know who's going to play each other.
What about Game 7?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go, but if anyone else to show up. There's nothing sadder. Like when I was a kid, I used to think about this all the time. Like if the whole concept of to go walk into the arena tomorrow, when that Game 7 should have happened. I don't know if you guys have ever think about this. I do this. I don't know why this goes through my head, but it's like how sad is that? It's just the silence of nothingness, just sound of the air conditioner when it could have been like a Game 7.
No, you know what I do in games, not in series, but in games. I don't know if my team, let's say it's a baseball game and they're winning 8-0.
Yeah.
I do want the other team to come back a little, so there is a game, But then if it's like 6, I want them to stop coming back. But I do feel that way sometimes. I do.
I get that sense. It's so strange.
I'm not like that, Russ. I just want to pound them into submission and win like 19.
That's what makes you a Yankee fan.
Well, that's good. That's you're a Yankees fan. You're like a Leafs fan. Things make sense.
You're desensitized.
Yeah. I get this way. I get like the purposeful sadness. Like when 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whatever rolls around this, on tomorrow night, I will have a moment of like sadness in my heart that'll fill up like, oh man, we could be starting a Game 7 right now. We're not. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll feel like that for a minute. Then I'll eat some chicken wings and I'll feel okay.
So behind me today, I've decided to play. This is the February Bruins Blues game over here that happened. So on that screen there.
So are we going to use stats based on only that game for the Stanley?
No, we're just looking at it.
Okay.
And but thanks for your open-mindedness. I appreciate your open-mindedness, Russ. And then behind here is a concert I really got into recently, which it's just freaking phenomenal. I forgot about it. The Peter Gabriel Secret World Live Tour, which is like
with Paul Cole as the
yeah. And that concert, now looking back on it, was
actually. Just to take a detour for a second, I tweeted, all right, put it on Facebook, a video from I think it was 2012 where Gabriel played with an orchestra in London,
Yeah.
I think it was at Royal Albert Hall, but I'm not 100% sure. But it was the New Blood Orchestra, I think it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, the thing I was taken back by is it's 2012. His voice is almost as good as it was when he was younger.
Yeah.
And when you compare that to Phil Collins, as I always do, or when you compare that to other singers, I mean, John Anderson from Yes is in his 70s and his voice is still phenomenal.
It is.
And so is Gabriel. And, to a lesser extent, Paul McCartney in his 70s still has
Tony Bennett has kept his voice for the most part, where Frank Sinatra lost it. Like, it just totally lost it.
Yeah, it was gravel. But yeah, I mean,
the thing about this concert to me is it's like, I mean, the couple songs from that album that he was touring behind, which I guess was the Talk album, was it? Or
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Were really good songs and kind of got overlooked. Like, it was a better album than, in my opinion, the one before that one. And it was just complete. And so Talk to Me, which is the first song, is a great song. And Secret World itself is a phenomenal song. Like, Secret World itself is a really good song. And the only thing about this concert is that after this, we toured with Paula Cole a little bit, and she was such a jerk that it's hard for me to watch this.
I only know her of all the Cowboys Gone song. I know nothing else about her.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really liked this stuff. Actually, I was really thrilled to be touring with her. I thought it was gonna be really exciting, and she was just not a good person.
Actually, it's funny because I know her music pretty well because she opened up for Sarah McLachlan for 2 tours.
That's part of the whole thing, yeah. So that's part of that, Mike, is that she opened for Sarah McLachlan and credited that with her big thing, right? So that got her going.
Right.
And we then were opening for her at the State Theater in Maine, which is like her home base. And because we sold a bunch of CDs, we were kicked off the tour because we did so well. So it's kind of like an ironic thing that really pissed me off to no end. So that's a little
if it's any consolation, after her second album, she bombed and she's nowhere anymore. So now she's doing now she's doing like karaoke versions of herself. So basically, she's just redoing the songs from her first 2 albums over again when she's older and less attractive and shaved her armpits because she didn't do that in '98. Anyway, we can talk about the Bruins Blues matchup because we'll have enough time to do it. But I think we should focus on the Sharks because boy, do they have a lot of things that they have to decide on in the next few months, or actually the next month. Because I mean, I want to start with Carlson. If I'm Doug Wilson, I run as far away from Erik Karlsson as I possibly can.
I think he already has. I think by nothing happening.
I mean, I think by the fact that they had a whole year to extend the guy, they could have. They could have extended him at any point. The feeling it has very much been a roller coaster things because originally when they first got him, I remember they tried to get Tavares. They were in this whole when they originally got Karlsson. The feeling was that they weren't going to extend him, that it was just good. And then as the year went on, though, the feeling kind of shifted to, well, maybe they are going to extend him as he started playing better in the second half of the season. And then in the playoffs, then the whole thing was like, okay, well, we'll see how he does in the playoffs because that's really why we got him was the playoffs.
Well, now it's the injuries.
And then he did pretty well in the playoffs, though. But, at the same time, I mean, at the same time, even though he did well in the playoffs, he got hurt. He was a factor, but so I think really right now there's so many uncertainties. I think the Sharks just have to move away. They're going to move away from this, and I think it is going to be a 2-team race between Tampa and the Rangers. I mean, that's really what it sounds like. And for him to go to Tampa, it's going to take a lot less. He's going to have to take less money than he'll get for the Rangers, but he might want to go to Tampa with the taxes, and he might want to go to Tampa to play with Hedman. There's certain things that could play into this.
Yeah, he'll either want to. Yeah, but the thing is, he won't play with Hedman, and that's why maybe he would rather play with Lundqvist because at least he'll actually play with Lundqvist. He'll never play with Hedman. Like they'll never be.
He'll never play with Hedman. The whole point is that what's he gonna? He's gonna play. He'll go to Tampa for $2 million a year to play.
Yeah, no.
Like it's not even possible.
I mean, this is the thing. I think that his questionable injury history, his health, him playing basically on one leg in the playoffs, that's not going to affect, I think, what he makes in terms of AAV. I think it's going to affect term. I don't think anybody wants
and suitors.
Yes, and suitors. I think there'll still be 4 or 5 teams that'll go big for him. But I think he's going to get, he may get offers of 3 years, maybe 5 at the most. He's not getting 7 or 8. He's not getting 8 from San Jose. He's not getting 7 because honestly, his his ability to be. I mean, his game is focused on him being able to move. He's a great passer, but he's got to skate. And if his ankle or if his hamstring or whatever is wrong with him doesn't get better, then he's a limited player.
So if you're a GM and you're thinking Erik Karlsson is on your radar, how do you approach this? If you're a conservative one, you're definitely going to deal with the physical aspects. You're going to work with the agent. You're going to get doctor's reports. You're going to have second opinions and stuff. And you're going to try and find out what the root of this is. But the conservative ones and the smart ones are going to go in with incentive-laden contracts.
Right.
Meaning you probably have a signing bonus that guarantees them some money over the course of those years that's included into the salary cap hit. But the real money, the other money comes in on hitting certain targets, games played, point production, those things, because there's too big a risk when you're talking $9 million a year.
Right.
Like he's going to get some money, but you're going to put incentives in because it's a dangerous game right now with Erik Karlsson.
And I would give him a 4-year deal. I would give him a $5 million signing bonus every year and $2 to $4 million in incentives every year. And that's the way I would do it.
So you're talking about 4 years to between 28 and 36 million.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, I think that's realistic. Now the thing is, I'm sure his agent's going to press for 7, and
the only way give it to him.
And the only way that somebody gives it to him is that they front load that deal and they make it so structured that, and you can't give heavy signing bonus later in the deal because the signing bonus is basically buyout proof. So maybe you give him a 7-year deal, and the first 4 years of that deal he's making $9 million, and then it drops off and it's all salary. That's the only way that you can sort of structure it to make it palatable for the team. But I don't know. I don't think Tampa's going to do that. They don't have them. They don't have the cap space. They can't sign Karlsson and sign Braden Point. They can't do.
Tampa really is not going to be able to do this. I mean, I don't see how they're going to be able to do it either. I mean that. Who knows? I mean, maybe they have a way. Teams always find ways to do things that you don't expect. So, but
the weird thing is, he did have a lot of playoff points.
He had a good playoff. That's the thing. And he did have a really good playoff. I mean, besides his injury, and also when he was hurt. I mean, this is the tough thing about it. He's playing hurt, and he's getting points. So it's like you say, well, he was healthy, but then you say, well, wait, no. But then you also remember he was hurt, so he's going to be hurt all the time. So you go back and forth in your head. Like on one hand, he did really well for not being healthy. But on the other hand, he wasn't healthy, so maybe you shouldn't take a chance on him.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know where to go with that, and he was good in the playoffs, and he was a reason the Sharks got past the second round. I would say for sure. Like I think he was a big part of getting past Colorado, and there we are.
Now the two other players are in my mind are inextricably linked, and that's Pavelski and Thornton, because now. I don't know, I didn't hear this until today, but on Hockey Central, they indicated that Pavelski was not too pleased with the Sharks signing of Evander Kane and basically spending that kind of money on Evander Kane when he was coming up for unrestricted free agency.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, I heard that rumor. That rumor's been out there forever. Kind of surprised that they brought that up. Who brought that up?
It was either Brian Burke or Jeff Merrick.
Okay.
So
I'm both guys I really respect, but I'm telling you that's one of those that feels to me like a rumor is a rumor that is just built upon itself. Because when I heard people talking about it early on, it was really mentioned in a lot of different, more along the lines of like, they're not going to be happy. Pavelski's not going to be happy about that kind of thing. Like it wasn't like Joe Pavelski is pissed off about it. Like,
well, this is what I'm wondering. Let everybody. I mean, does everybody think that Joe Thornton will be the Zdeno Chara of San Jose and take less on a new if he's not interested in retiring, will he take a $2 million contract or $2.5 million contract? See, then if that's the case, then I think then he's gone and they'll sign Pavelski.
Right. Yeah, there's no way he's taking that.
No way.
No way. $2.5 million? No.
Where do you cut? Where do you put the cutoff at?
Well, here's an indication, and Peter, because 2 years ago in the summer when both Marleau and Thornton were free agents, apparently Thornton and Marleau both talked to Toronto. They were both offered the same deal from San Jose, around six and a quarter, but only 2 years. And I think that's what Thornton what Thornton did was, after Marlowe signed with Toronto, he took a 1-year deal, but he took some of the money from Marlowe. He got $8 million for a year. So money is still important for Thornton based on that. Now, if now it's like he wants to hold on and play another year or two, I think he's going to have to take less to stay there.
Well, beard oil's not cheap.
Well, it's beyond the. I mean, Thornton is one of those rare players that we don't see very often anymore. That goes beyond how much he adds to the team at this point in his career. They really, he is a spiritual leader of that group, and the ownership just adores him. So they will. Otherwise, I mean, he wouldn't be getting the kind of contract he's been getting over the last couple of years.
Give Joe Thornton a base of $3.5 million and let him earn some bonuses. See if he does it. I mean, it's not simple. Joe Thornton, the whole thing isn't about San Jose enticing Joe Thornton to come back. It's Joe Thornton enticing himself to come back.
That's it, exactly. And
this is what was within the player, not the team. Joe Thornton owes no one anything. It's whether he feels he owes himself something.
No, but the Sharks feel they owe Joe Thornton a lot. So,
but
Sharks, if Joe Thornton wants to come back, they will find a way for Joe Thornton to be back. That's the way the Sharks work.
I got to tell you, I didn't see a very and again, it's the end of a game. He looked pretty beat after last night's game, and the look on his face did look to me like a guy that could be walking away. And he wanted to take the last minute in. So
I got that sense too, Russ, and I got that sense throughout the year. Even as good as he was playing, it felt like part of him playing so good was like, I only have to do this one more time.
Yeah.
And that and there is something to that. I feel like when players know it's their last time around, and he's not the kind of guy who's going to announce that this is his farewell tour. He's not the kind of guy who would do that. But the way he was playing was so good that you kind of got the sense that maybe this is it. Maybe he knows it. And if he knows it, I would guarantee you that Doug Wilson knows it as well.
One last thing about Karlsson, Mike, and then I'll let you go. So what makes his 16 points any worse than Brett Burns' 16 points? That's why he's not going to take a deal from San Jose.
Right. And he did it on one leg is what he'll say. It's like, the other UFAs are Donskoy and Nyquist. I mean, I'm sure they'd like to keep Nyquist because Nyquist played really well in the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to be able to afford it. Donskoy, they'd probably get cheap. But Russ, the RFAs are even more troublesome for them.
Yeah.
Bank, who, you've been
he'll get a bridge deal. He's getting a bridge deal.
And Timo Meyer's not getting no bridge deal.
No, Timo, they'll have to sign long term, but the LeBanc will get a bridge deal. They'll fit those guys in. I think Donskoy they'll fit in too. That's it. I don't think they'll be able to afford the rest.
The other thing you got to look at when you look at the Sharks, and this I just looked just before whilst we were talking about them, and I hadn't realized this. There is 5 years of Martin Jones at 5.75.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh, that's a biggie.
But he's not an old man.
He's just turned 29 in January. But it's not whether he's old. It's 5 more years of that.
I mean, Russ, the thing is, it's like, was he better in the playoffs than he was in the regular season? Yes. Was he as good as he was when they made the Cup final? Not even close.
Okay. To me, I'm looking at cap friendly. I'll agree with you on Mike. But again, we know goalies go up and down all years, right? So he didn't prevent them from getting to the conference final. So I think he's in good standing. But this is the biggest problem for the Sharks next year. Aside from Burns and Vlasic, everybody on defense is a UFA or an RFA. They have to completely rebuild their defense. Like Justin Braun may come cheap, and Dylan, I'm not sure if you want to pay him any more than 3.2. But you know what I mean? It's like this is a problem. They're going to have a problem just maintaining a top 4 next year. That's going to be their biggest.
Well, those guys are on the final year of deals. Yeah, Braun and Dylan. Now the question is like, I mean, we know their first round pick from last year was a defenseman, and he's probably not even close to being ready to be for the
2020.
Yeah, but after those guys are UFAs, then he might be. So with another year of seasoning at 20 years old or 21 years old, I'm drawing up. Is it Merkley? I'm drawing the.
Oh yeah, Ryan Merkley. Yeah.
Then he might be ready.
He did play in the A this year at the end of the year, so yeah, you might be right on that. So they do have a top 4 this year, but it's not great without Carlson. But their defense is weakening as we speak.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. I mean, another guy they have 2 other guys that are really kind of fascinating on the forward end too. Like Nyquist was very good for them, and he was very good in general. I mean, and he's been solid for his career. He's a solid player. He reminds me,
he earned himself some money in the free agent market because
he had kind of like the Fitbula year, like that we saw in the Islanders. They really had like similar type seasons, and
that's an insult to Nyquist to compare him to Mopola. I mean,
no, I know, but they both had I mean that in the way that they both played a very specific role that was really valuable for the team. I'm not saying that they're the same talent level,
right? I mean, he's a legitimate top 6.
Yeah, he's on the edge of that, but yes, Nyquist is, and he definitely, he's going to have there are going to be a lot of people who are interested in Nyquist. There's no question about that. He's going to have his home, and one of those people I fully expect, and talking to people today will be Ken Holland in Edmonton. That this is a guy that Holland will look at, really as a perfect player to bring in, and probably is kind of the perfect player to bring into Edmonton.
It all depends on what they can clear out in terms of bad money and whether they can, because Nyquist is not going to come cheap. He's probably going to be looking for 5.5, 6 million.
He gets 6 or 6.5. He has 6 points this year. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna. So okay, so say Edmonton's interested. Okay, then you're gonna have to clear space by either finding somebody to take Milan Lucic's contract, burying it like on their version of Robidoux Island, or buying out Chris Russell, or trading
Koskinen.
Or buying out Koskinen. I mean, they don't have the cap room to sign a big time free agent. They just don't.
No, they really don't. But the question of how is he really going to be?
Yeah,
you guys going high. I mean, I know 60 points this year, but that hasn't necessarily been the norm for Nyquist. I mean, he had a good year this year.
He had 60 this year. He gets around 48 to 55. He's had multiple 1, 2, 3, 4, 420 goal years. Like, this is the going rate for a guy like that. He's got at least 6.
Yeah. 6 is
now he was 4.8 on his last deal. Sorry.
And now, if he went back, like if Detroit was interested in bringing him back, since they have cap space, they could do that, or the Rangers, or the Devils, or teams that need Buffalo has some cap space, and they probably will need somebody after Skinner goes away. So I mean, they
like him on the island too. I was told that very specifically.
And they have money as well, but they're going to have to invest in a goaltender if Leonard walks away.
Yeah.
So, but I don't, he's definitely not going back to San Jose, that's for sure, because they just can't afford him.
No, and the other guy there is Donskoy, who's an interesting player, he's the kind of player that, and I wrote this today in the blog, he reminds me of of William Karlsson before he went to Vegas. There's Donskoy has the ability to be something really, really good, but doesn't show that all enough. And isn't consistent enough with it, and doesn't get the right kind of ice time enough and power play time and stuff like that. But
I don't think he's a skill. Who I'd compare him to? And Peter, this is, I think, somebody that Winnipeg has a quandary about. He's the type of feisty role player, third line guy that Brandon Tanev is.
Yeah.
And the problem is with those guys is when they get to free agency, they get overpaid so much that their value to a team dissipates. Like, if Brandon Tanev making less than $2 million is a valuable player to the Jets, him making $3 million is a boat anchor.
Well, that's exactly it. And I think one of the things is that, like, I said this about Tanev, and I got just roasted by a lot of Jets fans, but yet a lot of people support it. And the whole point is, if Brandon Tanev and the role of signing him is so critical to the team, you've missed the point, because you should have a whole pen of Brandon Tanevs, noses pressed against the glass, waiting to come in. He's not that specifically unique in his skill set that he isn't replaceable. You want Brandon Tanev because he works, but you don't want him at any price.
No, but
and that's the point.
I think,
you need to keep developing third and fourth line guys and have them in your pen so that when one's going to get paid, you're not the one overpaying for it.
I think you're underestimating the actual skill of Donskoy. Actually, he's a way more skilled player than I mean, they're both hard workers. But Donskoy is not really. He plays a grinding style because that's sort of the role he's put into in San Jose. But I think he can actually.
Donskoy has played 4 years in the NHL. He's scored 11, 6, 14, and 14 goals.
That's why I say it reminds me of like Carlson, who like didn't put up points either. But the skill
that was 1 year, and then he got picked up by Vegas, and then he exploded.
Right.
Yeah, but that's where I feel like Donskoy is in that kind of world. I'm not saying he's going to have the same kind of explosion, but he's somewhere in the Alex Chiasson world, like where he is much better than people realize. He
scores goals differently. Like Donskoy, the problem with him is he just goes away for weeks on end.
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. But he has skill. Like he when he scores, he'll make plays that will blow you away. Like you're like, wow, that guy's really skilled. But yet he won't do it consistently at all.
Yeah, so that's not a subject here. Something that's come up. I noticed that 2 deals in particular are getting revisited and talked about, and they probably should. Jim Rutherford has this great reputation, like he never makes a bad deal. But Oscar Sundqvist, that deal and a first-round pick, which turned into Clint Kostin for Ryan Reeves, was a horrible deal that set them back. Like there's no way around it.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. It really was.
That's a really horrible deal. I mean, Sundqvist is 8 points in the playoffs, and he had 31 in a regular season, I think 14 goals. And then, like, we've talked about this deal, and I was in favor of this deal, and I understand why Buffalo did it, but they're getting killed for the O'Reilly deal. They are.
Well, okay. And this is the thing, because I've talked about this on Buffalo radio a few times. Ryan O'Reilly didn't give the Sabres much choice because he came out at the end of the season last year and essentially said through the media, I don't want to be here anymore because this team is losing and they have no clue of where they're going in terms of being able to win. Okay. So he had 6 years left at $7 million. That was a problem. Like, cause basically it's like he's calling them out, and I don't think they were going to be able to change his mind with anything they were going to do in the offseason. So they said, okay, well, we have to trade him. Okay, the problem there is when they made this deal with St. Louis, they did not get one of their grade A prospects. They didn't get Kostin. They didn't get Robert Thomas. They didn't get Jordan Kyrou. They got a salary dump of Patrick Berglund, a salary dump of Vladimir Sobotka, Tage Thompson, who's a grade B prospect. I'm not saying he can't be a good player, but he's not even in the same realm as those other three, and a conditional first and a second round pick. The Sabres got nothing back tangible for Ryan O'Reilly. So that's the problem. It's like, you can trade a big name player. You can trade a player who's in his prime. You just got to get value for him. And they didn't get value. They got nothing for him. Nothing. They're going to
give Armstrong credit. Armstrong's made a couple of deals here that really helped him now.
Yeah.
So, and interesting, I literally was just checking Twitter when you brought this up, and here's a tweet from June 6th last year. Do you hope the Sabres trade Ryan O'Reilly from Mike Schopp?
Mike Schopp.
56% said yes.
Yeah,
3,200 respondents.
Yeah,
so that's the mindset. But this is the thing that I think if you're a Buffalo fan and you're a Pagula, if you even are paying attention, you have to look at who the Sabres have traded and what they've got returns for. Because Evander Kane was not much different. And yes, they're different players. But if Evander Kane only got you that much, how much more did Ryan O'Reilly get you, who should have got you a boatload more?
Well, the difference between Kane and O'Reilly is because Kane was an expiring contract, and everybody knew that the Sabres weren't going to re-sign him.
I know, I understand the differences, but what's the return?
The return has turned out to be lousy.
Yeah, it has. I mean, but you got to remember the different GMs go about this in different ways too. Like, Rutherford, we can rip him apart, and he has made bad trades. He's also won Stanley Cups, right? So it's like,
but here's the point of that, though.
No, the point of that is this: that Rutherford is like, and I'll finish this, and I'll let you. Rutherford is not a guy who thinks about prospects enough. He doesn't think in terms of this stuff enough. He's always been, I will fix that later with something else type of guy. Like he's like, I'll make that trade now because that's what we need right now. And when it does come back to bite me, I'll make another trade to fix that.
Or when it comes back to bite the organization, I'll be drinking Mai Tais in Florida.
No, I mean, to his credit, he stuck around. I mean, I remember the first year he made all those trades and was going to be there for 1 year. I was thinking, man, this is a little crazy because he's being there. He's only there for 1 year.
So of course he stayed.
No, he stayed, but he stayed. I mean, he did stay.
But the point is, because he's won cups, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about some of these kinds of deals. Because again, we're no longer in the era where I remember growing up, especially in New York, everybody was just like, you win one championship, we'll all be happy. And that manager, that GM, they get a pass for like a decade, right? And that was fine when sports wasn't $1 billion industry that it is now.
Right.
Now it's no longer fine. You win a cup, you maybe get 2-3 years of nobody touching you. You get a contract and everything. After that, it's back to being open season, and it should be because again, there's too much at stake. I
totally agree. There is, but I mean, but when you look at these guys, you do have to. There is too much at stake, but you also have to realize that these guys, they're just the personalities of these of certain games is what you get. You're not going to trade. I mean, I like some of the Rutherford things that I love. I don't want him to not do anymore because of you're going to change personality. Like Rutherford's aspect is he will go for it. He will make. He's a horse trader.
There's a fly by the seat of your pants mentality that Rutherford has that's refreshing. That will make the Tanner Pearson for Erica Branson deal at the deadline.
Yeah, and stuff like that will happen, right? And suddenly, and yet he has won, and granted he's had great players too. But it's all.
But my whole critique of Botterill, who was a Rutherford disciple in Pittsburgh, is the fact that in the biggest deal that he had to make, that he didn't get anything. I mean, one guy walked away from the team because he hated Buffalo so much, and he was having some sort of crisis in his life in Berglund. Sobotka is probably going to be a buyout. Tage Thompson, other than like a 2-week span where he scored a few goals, did almost nothing all year. And I think that they lost the St. Louis, or they traded the St. Louis pick for Brandon Montour. So at least there's something out of it. It's either St. Louis or San Jose. I mean, okay, you got a marginal return for a guy who could win the Selke this year and who could have a Stanley Cup ring. So, and it's Botterill's got egg on his face with that deal.
And this is also what I'm saying with in regards to Rutherford. There's not one A prospect left in the organization.
Right.
Now, they've done a good job drafting, so there's a few Bs and definite Cs, but there's no more A prospects. So when they're making trades, there's no more Daniel Sprongs to trade.
Right.
You know what I mean? So currency has to come from recycling the players he has, like Kessel. And eventually, in this era, you're going to see that will just only get them so far, even with Crosby and
they haven't had a first-round draft pick forever, right? So this is the first year they have one coming up, I think.
Well, and that's the interesting thing because I was doing a draft preview thing for on the Rangers and looking at the Rangers. The Rangers didn't have a first-round pick in 2014, 15, and 16, and then loaded up the last 2 years when they did the rebuild. Teams like Winnipeg, who've traded their pick 2 years in a row. Since they had a lot of young players in the organization, they can get away with that for a few years. But these teams now, with the importance of the draft, you can't get away with trading firsts year after year after year. It catches up, and then in the end, what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to blow up the team and rebuild through the draft because that's the only way you can really do it.
That's true.
I mean, that's the thing. You got to remember, it took Winnipeg 6 years of not doing anything to get into the position, right? And there's a guy who's former TSN guy in Toronto, and he used to be on. They used to do soundbite. He's here in Winnipeg now. He used to do soundbite to him, and he's absolutely right. And he always used to say, to make Rick Ralph, to make trades, you need draft picks and prospects.
Mm-hmm.
You need them on both sides, because if you don't have enough on your own and you're trading players, you're gonna get caught from behind. If you don't have any to trade to do, you're going to get caught anyways.
Right.
It's the necessary currency. And when you eventually spend all your currency, you got to go, it's like a loan from the bank. once you spent it all, you got to start paying it back and resaving again. So you can't borrow any more money.
So Peter, because you're leaving soon, here's my question for you. The other day, and I think I was asked this maybe on Sirius or it was here, I don't remember, but Winnipeg, it was on New York radio. I don't know if Winnipeg's a playoff team next year. I think they're on the bubble. What if they don't make the playoffs? If something happens and they don't make the playoffs, what would the shockwaves be at this point?
Well, Paul Maurice should be fired. I don't think Kevin Cheveldayoff would be fired.
Okay.
That he would be safe. I think the positioning would be square at the coach. And in fact, the funny thing is that there's an article in the Winnipeg Free Press that came out yesterday saying there should be more heat on Paul Maurice. He's basically echoing what all the blogosphere has said for months and months here, is that he needs to be held to more account. I think the Jets can make the playoffs, and I think they will make the playoffs, but not as they finish the season this year.
Right.
That's the problem. So unless they understand that changes need to be made structurally with the team, how it played hockey, and maybe some personnel decisions, they won't make it. But Kevin Cheveldayoff will be the GM and president of hockey operations at the end of next season if they miss.
Well,
we've not be the coach.
We've said many a time this year, Peter, that the Leafs and the Jets are mirror images of each other in the West and the East. They're in similar situations. I mean, with the cap problems that the Leafs are in, and if you look at the Atlantic, I mean, Florida's going to be better because Quenneville's there, and they're probably going to add players. Montreal is going to get better. They have money to spend. Boston, Tampa. I mean, you're getting to the point in just the Atlantic where the Leafs could be anywhere from 2nd to 5th, and they could be fighting for a wild card spot. I can guarantee you, if they miss the playoffs, Mike Babcock is fired. I mean, and how strong they're going to be going into next year, where they're going to have a sort of a 1-year cap crunch like the Jets are probably going to have with all these everything coming due at the same time. You know, that's why I think GMs like Cheveldayoff and Dubas are going to probably roll the dice and make some trades because they have to move things out to address areas of need in other places. And that's why guys like Nylander or Kadri, which we're going to talk about in a minute, I think are could be moved simply because they have to address other areas to improve that overall.
Here's the thing, Mike, to quote Russ, here's the thing. The Jets basically, other than trying to trade cap space so that they could keep Stasny, they lose Enstrom retires essentially. They lose Armia and Mason. And it's essentially the same roster other than no Hendricks for the full year. They bring him back. Mm-hmm. Really, from a core foundation, the only major change is Toby Enstrom out of who's been with the team for a long time. Right. Not a lot of turnover. The Leafs, not a lot of turnover. The Jets regressed when it came time to where people picked them as a Stanley Cup favorite. Mm-hmm. They regressed. The Leafs need to change. The status quo isn't good enough, even though they added Tavares, isn't good enough to get them past where they need to get, which is the nemesis of Boston. And you can't keep the status quo anymore. Right, the status quo doesn't work. And so there has to be changes.
The Leafs regressed in the second half. They were one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, that's right.
And then in the second half, they were over 500, but they weren't that. They had long stretches of futility, and then in the playoffs, nobody in their right mind would pick the Leafs over the Bruins. So I mean, sorry,
against that. They almost beat the Bruins. By the way, I mean, come on, they were up 3-2 in the series.
Nobody picked the Leafs.
Well, I don't care what people did. If people didn't pick the Leafs, they were wrong. I mean, because the Leafs had a very clear shot at winning this and almost did win it.
No, they
did. What you're saying. That's amazing. They blew it. They obviously blew the thing in game. What was it? Game 6. They blew it. They had a 3-1 lead in the series, and then they blew it. But they still. That's not to say that. My God, just to think that's not a sweep, for crying out loud.
No, but matching up against the Bruins, I know anybody who knew that team like I knew that team was picking the Bruins. That's what I'm saying.
Then they did better than you thought they would do. Is that what you're saying? The Leafs are better than you thought they'd be in the playoffs? Leafs outperformed your expectations?
No, I picked the Bruins in 6, and they outdid it by 1 game, but they still lost. So
Yeah, they outperformed.
Yes.
no, go ahead, Russ.
Peter posted this, and I know he's got to run, so I'll read it for him in case he can't respond. But he said Mackenzie just tweeted that Tippett's not the only leading candidate for the Oilers job.
Not only he's the only candidate.
He's
only the leading candidate, but he's the only candidate.
I'll read the tweet. Just following up on this, my sense is that Dave Tippett is not only the leading candidate in Edmonton, but for the moment, the only candidate.
He's the only candidate. Okay, I had trouble reading.
Like,
I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only leading only because he's the only one. That's where it is in Edmonton right now.
And why hasn't he been hired then?
Because obviously he's holding him up for money.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
What a mess. Anyways, guys, sorry I have to run. But take care. We'll touch base later. Okay.
Sounds good. No,
Well, the one thing the Leafs and the Jets have in common is one of them is going to get to say they lost to the Stanley Cup champion. So we'll say that. That's the one thing they can do.
What a consolation. No, let's talk about Kadri. Yeah.
No, getting back to the Oilers, this almost guarantees that they'll be overpaying for his services.
Sure.
No, yeah, no. The Oilers are at the point where they have to overpay. I mean, they very much overpaid for Ken Holland. Okay, let's not
right.
As good as Ken Holland is, he's a wonderful GM. He got $25 million from them.
And the problem is that even if you bring in Tippett, who's a pretty good coach, I don't know if they win based on the quality of their roster. They're going to have to be some major changes.
There's no question. Yeah.
Ken Holland is going to have to be able to move out and Barry and a few other things just to get them competitive for a playoff spot.
Edmonton is a funny place because I talked to somebody who interviewed for that job, and then everybody interviewed for that GM job. So it's like, the emotions about it were all over the map. It starts off, the feelings of it, like when they first go in there, you're like, I don't know, does my wife really want to leave her thing? She had a pretty good thing here. We would go to Edmonton. Is that really? That's the first thing you hear, and then they say, I'm going to go talk to him. He's an important person in Hockey Canada. I should go talk to him. So they go talk to him, and then afterwards they get kind of psyched because it's like, it went pretty well. And then you think, had McDavid, they got this beautiful new building, great Rabbit fans. And then they kind of get into it. And then when they get let down, they're like, that would have been a horrible idea to go to Edmonton. It just would, this is the Oilers. The Oilers have this weird dichotomy of like people who don't get the job being able to walk away from it without really any problem. But then people also kind of excited about the idea of getting it. So I think that, when you're working with McDavid, is an exciting thing to have to build that kind of thing. You've got some key players. So I think that's why they have to overpay a little bit. They definitely have to overpay right now. And because it is potentially one of the best jobs in hockey, but it's also potentially one of the worst. So it's like, that's the situation is, it's such a weird spot to be in.
Because you mentioned it in your blog today, Kadri.
Kadri's a weird one. We all saw the disaster that was Kadri this year. If he doesn't get kicked out of the playoffs, the Leafs are going to play the Blues this weekend. But he gets kicked out. So and the Leafs know this. So they're sitting there and they're and the feeling was, okay, that's enough. They're not gonna do anything more with him. And then, but the more I've talked to people, the more I feel like, I know you do, Mike, that he's not going anywhere. And I really get the sense that he isn't going anywhere. Although there are a lot of teams that are interested in him. And
yes. There are a lot of teams that are interested because of his price point at $4.5 million. He's got 3 years left in a contract, and he's a 30-goal scorer. He had a little off year this year because he was more of a third-line center, and most of the offensive chances went to Tavares and Matthews. And he did play on the first power play, but there was just something missing there. Now the thing is
so funny because when you say this, like and Russ, you've seen this 1,000 times. It's like players like, okay, we got this player. He's good, but he's a bit of a attitude issue. But he'll score some goals and that. But he has some upside. But he's got an attitude issue, and you'll see people like, we won't touch him in a million years. And then you'll see, he's a bit of an attitude issue, but he scored 30 goals. And it's like, okay, we'll get him. He'll be fine. It's like,
and he's a center, and he's locked up.
Like it's so funny. It's like it's just like. Yeah, everybody thinks they can heal a player if they score 30 goals.
He's a 30-goal scorer. He's a center, and he's in his 20s. It's like they don't care if he's Jeffrey Dahmer.
He goes from being a problem case to being a passionate player. Like you'll see all this stuff.
Yeah. The interest got peaked though because of the press conference when Kyle Dubas was basically saying what's going to happen the next time he gets a bad suspension. It's, he's already a marked man. That's what the leagues are worried about. That's what teams have to be worried about. Right. But again, teams do always think they could fix somebody. Look how many times the Rangers and Leafs have taken in players and said, oh, yeah, we'll turn it around for them. And, 1 out of every 6 or 7 that happens. Kadri's got everything else going for him.
Right, but the consideration here, and it's not just organizational depth, but it is a big key. After Matthews, after Tavares, and you're spending $11+ million on Matthews and 11 on Tavares, and Kadri is your number 3 center at 4.5, which is a pretty good price. They're almost bereft of centers in their organization. Freddie Gauthier was an unmitigated disaster as a 4th-line center. They could, you could see a guy like Pierre Engvall come up from the Marlies and play 4th-line center next year. I think he could handle the job. But they really don't have anybody like ready to step up in the organization and move up to the NHL to take Kadri's place if they trade Kadri. William Nylander, Babcock cannot stand him playing center. He doesn't like the way he plays defensively. And then you're just moving a $7 million guy who's a winger who was supposed to be on the wing with Matthews, and you're moving him to a position that you don't trust him at. So that's why I don't think they're trading Kadri. That's why I think if they're going to trade a forward, it's going to be a winger. It's going to be one of the Kapanen or Janssen or Nylander. It's not going to be Kadri. And organizational depth really has a lot to do with it.
Well, and also I think it helps Kadri because you just sit there and say, oh, he's a third line scorer and getting 30. He's not a 3rd-line center. He's like a legitimate 2nd-line center on most teams. Right. But also realize that as a 3rd-line center, he is facing no defensive players. Like, right. I mean, Matthews and Tavares are taking up all of. If you've got a checking player, they're going out against Matthews or Tavares, right?
Yeah, so there is some belief that this is sort of been hanging out there, sort of like Babcock was left hanging out there. This is to teach Kadri a lesson. Like, he wants to stay in Toronto, but the rumors of him possibly being traded is like, okay, you're gonna have to fly on the straight and narrow to stay in Toronto. If you can't do something stupid like you've done before, if you do it one more time, you're done. So that might be what is going on. Why his name is still being floated. But honestly, I really don't think.
But here's my. I don't think they want to trade him. Okay, and I don't think they want to. But I think that when you mention the other guys you're talking about, they aren't going to get what they need from those guys.
That's true.
And I think at the end of the day, I could see this being I could see them flip flopping on this. I could see them being like, okay, we had to trade Kadri because
maybe, but they can get what they need from trading Nylander. I really think they can. Kadri, the problem is, like, everybody says, well, they can trade Kadri and get defensive help, and then they can go out and get a 3rd-line center for $2.5 million. Okay, who is it? Because every time I hear somebody say that, I ask them who it is, and they have no friggin' clue, because you don't know. Like, I mean, were they going to go out and sign Jason Spezza for $2.5 million, or Well, I know, but do you think he's a 3rd-line center at 36 years old? I don't think he is.
Hard. I mean, he can get away with it.
Yeah, he could get away with it. I mean, you already have enough offense on the rest of your team tonight.
More breaking news.
Go ahead.
McKenzie now said that Ottawa is just going through the contract phase, and they will probably announce their coaching signing over the weekend, but probably Saturday. So do we think this is a done deal with Patrick Waugh?
No, I think they interviewed.
Oh my God! Please.
Honestly, Patrick Waugh.
We need the summer traffic. Oh my Lord!
If Patrick Waugh agrees to be the coach of the Ottawa Senators, I mean, I question his sanity. And
no! Hold on. You have to. If you haven't questioned Patrick Waugh's sanity by now, Mike.
Well, I'm doing it again.
No, but I mean, that's a given. Okay, that's off the table. Okay, Patrick Waugh's sanity was left in the Montreal Forum years ago. Okay, so, but the reality is, Patrick Waugh will do something just to do it, and he will do something just to screw with people too. He'll do something. He's perfect for this job.
Russ. You know what he's doing? He's taking this job ahead of them moving to Quebec City. So he'll be the incumbent coach when they do move.
I mean, there's crazier things would happen.
Yeah, that's honestly not that far off.
But here's even other people are writing this act that Waugh is one of 7. Yeah. I don't know if we counted it up. I don't think we can come up with 7.
that they interviewed.
That they've interviewed.
DJ
You can always come up with, there's always people that interview, but like actual legitimate NHL coaches.
DJ Smith, Troy Mann, their AHL coach, Jacques Martin.
Right. Jacques Martin again.
Jacques Martin. I think they interviewed Todd Rich. Oh, Mark Crawford they interviewed.
Okay.
I don't think they did Tippett. That's 5. And that's off the top of my head. So
yeah, that's not bad. I mean, so do we think it's between DJ Smith and Patrick Waugh?
I don't think.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if Patrick Waugh is a realistic candidate. I mean, if it is, it's hilarious that he just comes in at the 11th hour.
Jim Melnick, this is in a way brilliant. Okay, let me throw this out there.
Yeah, I mean, he will take he will deflect everything.
He'll suck.
Yes, you will no longer be in the spotlight. This is like, you know,
the problem
like hiring Donald Trump to be your coach.
The problem is playing the role of Mike McCagnon is Pierre Dorian because Patrick Waugh is Adam Gase in this situation. Patrick Waugh is going to come in and he'll undercut Pierre Dorian within 5 seconds.
I mean, he'll try to, but again, what will happen is if Patrick Waugh is hired, everybody will write what happened the last time, right? So that takes off the heat initially. There'll be the press conference. He'll say some outlandish things because he's Patrick Waugh. He does know how to coach. I mean, there's no question he knows how to coach, and I'll back that up.
Especially young players, and he'll have a ton of them.
So there is a respect factor there. It's just a factor of does he have the temperament? Now he did when he owned the team in juniors. That's different, right? So he had the temperament to sort of work with the young players. How many years will Patrick Waugh have a temperament to work with young players and not be successful? That's really the question.
The question is, Russ, is how many minutes after Patrick Waugh is hired do they sign Mikhail Grigorenko from the KHL?
Yeah. I mean, because he had a financial stake in the Remparts. He doesn't have a financial stake in these guys. He would just be the coach. So it would be interesting to see how, could he go 3 years without making the playoffs, without losing it? I don't know.
It would be fun to see.
It would be fun to see. I mean, you all should be wanting this.
You all should be bringing this on. Even if you're Ottawa, honestly, even if you're a Senators fan, because to be honest, this at least gives you something to look forward to, because it's going to be crazy. It's going to be nuts, and and it may be successful. There's a possibility that Waugh, in the short term, very short term, could actually, do something with the Senators that turns them into a successful franchise for a year or so. But it will eventually, because if you feel like he is definitely an expiration coach, that has an expiration thing on his stamped onto him when he gets there. He's at a 2 to 2.5 year expiration.
It won't be brilliant if they sign him, right? And they have the press conference. Let's say they have the press conference on Monday. I don't know if the league would like that because it's a Stanley Cup day, so they might have to do it Tuesday. Let's say they do it Tuesday, right? The combine is just a few days after that. If you trot Patrick Waugh out at the combine,
no, it's gonna be awesome.
Nobody's gonna care what Ottawa's looking at the combine. They're all gonna be following Patrick Waugh around. It would be unbelievable.
Yeah, Patrick Waugh will come in thinking he's still picking 4th, and I'm like, Patrick, by the way, you're picking 22nd. What?
Yeah.
What idiot did that? Oh, hi, Pierre. What?
Oh man, I can't imagine. I can't. Also, Dorian though is also somewhat afraid of the pressure as well. He did not handle the Erik Karlsson thing very well.
I think he handled it as well as he could, to be honest.
He handled it well, but from what I was told behind the scenes, his nerves were getting the better of him. It was really
a tough situation on anybody.
The pressure was fraying on him, and I think that
he has Emmett Kelly as his owner. He's got
no. I know that. I'm not. Listen, I'm not. I like Dorian. I'm not taking anything. But I think again, if you're Dorian, you're okay. This takes the kind of the get the limelight off of you for a while. Get turn down the heat, let Waugh take it off, because Waugh can take it off. And God, the Ottawa Senators are going to play the Canadians and Leafs all those times. It's going to be like a crazy fun situation all around.
They reinforce the glass at Centre Bell.
It'll be fantastic.
I do need to answer the chat room. Toronto Greenhouse is doing this whole thing with Gritty, and they said, "Can we get Gritty on the show?" Gritty was on the show when Anthony and I when we were on with Mike. From Voorhees, Gritty walked by and he squeaked his squeakers. He was on the show.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
And I did this.
And he's $6,000 an hour. So let's remember that squeaker we're still paying for, So
$6,000.
that squeaker was, I think, like $85 or something like that. Yeah. That's the truth. You gotta realize that.
On the show already.
There you have it, right? I don't know. Really funny. That's really, really funny. It's hard to go anywhere after Patrick Waugh.
It really is.
Yeah, I think we'll just leave it there, guys.
Yeah, that's
so I'm going to be looking into that. The Tippett and the Waugh situation I'll be writing on later. We'll have some fun things to talk about tomorrow. And also, so if you go to patreon.com/hockey if you want to support the show, like a couple of you have in the last couple of days, which we really appreciate. I'm going to have something special for the Patreon only people that I will be posting on the Patreon site tomorrow afternoon. So if you join in, you'll be able to be a part of that. It's something fun you can watch, like a test thing that I'm going to be doing. So I want to run past the Patreon people before I actually run it out to everybody.
And it's not a picture of Gritty.
It has nothing to do with Gritty. Nope.
There's
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that.
There's a mural of Gritty now in Philly, and then there's somebody else said they've seen Gritty, like a picture of Gritty in jelly beans.
Gritty is everywhere. Where was I that I saw Gritty the other day? That was just like kind of shocking to me. Like, oh, was it the Philadelphia? No, I was at the zoo, our local zoo here, which we go to.
That's appropriate.
There was just a picture of Gritty at the zoo. It's just like he really is everywhere. It's just drawn by kids. Like kids love drawing Gritty. He's like drawing, it's like drawing a Grover. It's like completely. It's a simple Muppet.
Don't do that to Grover.
Yeah, please.
Gritty is very Muppet-like.
Yeah, but Gritty would get kicked out of the Muppets.
Yes.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't be able to stick hand. He probably would be blown up by Beaker. All right. That's all the time we have for today.
Pretty nerdy, but anyhow.
Yeah, there you go. We'll talk to you guys later. Talk to you tomorrow. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. See you then.